This is just an introduction to my YouTube channel, talking a little bit about price action trading on the CL and ES chart using a set of tools called Jigsaw trading tools. I ran across Jigsaw from a friend of mine that found them and showed me what they did, and I just became really enamored with them. I've been trading price action systems, started learning and studying Al Brooks, and then Mac on his price action trading system channel on YouTube, which is just fantastic in terms of putting a system together. And creating those setups is great. A lot of times your setup happens at a pivot point where it could go either way. You could have a second entry long, which is kind of what we saw setting up just now, or that could fail and then cause a failed second entry long, which would be a short trade. And so a lot of times, some of these points where you're looking to place a trade, the market could really go either way. So I was looking for a way to kind of dig down a little bit further, try to keep myself out of traps and so forth. And when my friend showed me these tools, I just really fell in love with them. And this is really, to be truthful, my first day using the tool. I've spent a lot of time evaluating the tool, looking at videos, seeing how they worked. And so this was my first live day of just having the tool, taking a look at it, recording it, seeing where setups come together between my price action setups and the actual order flow analysis. So Jigsaw Trading provides a set of tools that actually looks at order flow. They do a lot of really cool things in their tools. So as an example, you can see a number of these screens here. This one here is called the strength meter. I'll talk about that in just a second. And then this screen here, or this window here, and then this one over here, both of those are time and sales windows. But the second one is a little bit more interesting because it's a consolidated view of large trades. And I'll talk about that. It's called the reconstructed tape. This larger screen in the middle is called the depth and sales. It provides market depth as well as time and sales, orders that are pulled. It's a really cool tool, especially for the ES. And then over to the right is called the summary tape, and it just provides a summary of the time and sales coming in, and kind of shows you, as an example, I think how it's used by some traders is they look to see how many contracts it takes to tick up or tick down. So it's a kind of interesting view from that perspective. You just kind of look at the stuff and you can kind of get a feel for what's happening here. So from a price action trading perspective, you had a second entry long that appears to be failing, and so you want to use these tools to find out, if you've got a setup here or if your setup is really a valid one, and it's probably going to be helpful to determine if I get myself into a trap trade. I should be able to see the order flows as they come in. To know if I'm getting trapped or not. So if we look at what's happening here on the chart, this, coming back to the strength meter, what the strength meter does, and you can reset this at any time. So if you're at a key pivot point, just reset it, and then you can start seeing the flows. But this is order flows of the actual orders that are hitting and that are executing, the buys versus the sells. So when one side is dominating, you can see that very clearly. The time and sales, like I said, this is just the actual orders that are being executed coming in here. Now you can see here all of a sudden we had a whole bunch of small sell orders come through. Now we had a whole bunch of buy orders. So you can kind of see the market flowing through pretty well, which is kind of interesting. Kind of interesting for you just to see that market dynamic. But this one over here is really cool because this one reconstructs the tape. So if you're a very big trader, then a lot of times what you're doing is you're taking your 500 lot trade and you're trying to break it up into multiple trades because you don't want to tip your hand in the market. You don't want people to know that you're placing this big huge order. So you break it up, and what the reconstructed tape does is it takes all of those orders coming through and uses an algorithm. They have a couple algorithms. One is one that they've generated. Another one is based on CME rules that they've kind of discovered. and they reconstruct what those large trades are, so they can actually see when the big traders start coming into the market. And so that's what this screen does, is it kind of shows me, and you can set this, I've got it set to 100 lots, so anything above 100 lots is going to flow in here and pop up for me, which is way cool. I'm going to talk a little bit about this the summary tape just real quick. I did mention that kind of how it's used is just to kind of see how many contracts does it take to tick up or tick down. That's a good use of it. There's probably more uses that I'm not familiar with, and that I really don't have experience with. So we'll have to put that on the table for now until I get some more experience there. Now, then we come to this middle, what looks like a beast of a screen. It's got lots and lots of information here. So notice that there are 12 columns, and the first two columns are kind of for convenience and information. The first column there, you can actually type in information. So if you have key areas, resistance areas, you can put a little note in there, which is great. The next column, the second column, is for trading. You can actually trade off of this dome. This is a depth of market dome from Jigsaw. So you can actually trade off this, and it'll tell you what your trades are, shorts, longs, so forth. And then the third column here, this is a market profile. So you can actually see the trades that are hitting a particular price level, and you can see when the market was thin, when the market kind of thickened up, and obviously you can see right here this nice bell curve value area for the day, for at least for as long as I've had the data going. And you can refresh this anytime. You can reset everything. You can refresh it at the beginning of a session and just run it all day, or you can refresh it anytime you want. You can also have multiple windows of these open up as well. This fourth column, really I'll talk about the fourth column and I'll talk about the 12th column. I'm sorry, the fourth column is the prices, but the fifth column and the 12th column, these columns are showing you, they should add up. If you add one to the other, then it should equal what's in the market profile. And they're basically the sell orders and the buy orders separated out. So the things that have flowed through to hit at that level, separated out by buys and sells. Now the next two columns, so column 6 and 7 here, okay. These are the bid side, okay, and then the columns in the red, which are 10 and 11, those are offer side. And the inside colored columns, that's the actual depth of market, okay. And what that's showing me is all of the resting orders, bids, and offers at the various price levels, which is good. You can get that out of most any DOM. And you can kind of see an aggregate number. So you can see the aggregate, bids against the aggregate offers. But what's really cool about this is you notice the outside colored columns and notice how they're changing. What that's showing you is the number of bids and offers that are being pulled or added to that level in real time. And when we talk about being added, think for a minute that if you've got, let's say you've got 1,000 contracts at a particular level, say 37, right where we're at, and you start hitting that with bids, so people are starting to execute their sell offers against that 1,000. 1,000 bids should take that to 0. But if that number starts to increase, the number on the outside starts to increase positively, then what happens is that someone is adding to that 1,000 level. It's not always showing though. And that's an iceberg order. So these iceberg orders that get pushed out to the market, this is a way to detect when an iceberg order is being executed. And so you'll start to see, you'll have more than 1,000 bids. You might have 2,000 bids at that price level because you had 1,000 that was resting and then another 1,000 that was an iceberg order just sucking up all of that, all of those hits on the bid. Okay. Now, if you start to see numbers in the negative, especially really big numbers, then what you're looking at is people that are pulling their orders. So they might have floated a bid or an offer at a particular level, and then as the price gets closer, they start yanking those orders away. And they do that to spoof the market, as an example. So they're trying to attract people up to that level, yank the orders because they're really trying to sell or buy, and then kind of do a flip. In fact, there's a famous trader named the Flipper that if you do a search for him, that was kind of a tactic that he employed. So very cool way to see market dynamics there. And then these other inside ones, the 8 and 9, these are the actual executions taking place at that level for a given time period. And this refreshes. So if you pop up for a period of time, it'll, once you move to another level, it resets and refreshes so that as it gets, when it goes to that level again, you're actually seeing the stuff in real time. So you can see the historical stuff. It gets, as an example, at 75 there, you've got 353 sell executions. When it comes back down to that level, it'll wipe out the 353 and start fresh because it moved away from there and then came back down. So it's a good way in real time to see the orders that are actually hitting at the moment at those particular price levels. Okay, so what we're trying to do here is we're trying to look for setups that occur using price action principles and then confirm those setups using these tools, order flow analysis, and so forth. And that's what we're looking to do.